Hello. This is a video about my gender journey. Usually I start videos with my name and pronouns, however for this one I am waiting for the end. So, starting as a child, I didn't really know what gender was, of course, but I knew what made me feel comfortable, which was a strictly male gender presentation with short hair that I cut myself at around 3 or 4 because I wanted to look like Gohan from Dragon Ball Z because we were around the same age during his bull haircut era in the Frieza saga. Anyway, and that exclusively boy clothes for the majority of my childhood, except for maybe ages 7 and 8. I don't recall why, but those ages I started wearing girl clothes and grew my hair out. But then when I was like 9, I cut it all off and went back to boys only clothes. And that age is when I have like distinct memories of dysphoria. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that doing anything girly or being called a girl made me really uncomfortable, and that if I did any of that, it would reinforce the idea to others that I was a girl. So I couldn't do any of that stuff. Even if I secretly liked an activity, I just so strongly didn't want to be perceived as girly that in my little child brain, I decided, okay, I just have to do everything as boyish as I could and be a real good tomboy, not like those other ones. And yeah, I joined the Cub Scouts, which is like the younger version of Boy Scouts. I only wore guys' clothes. I went to the boys' toy section all the time. I cut my hair myself all the time. Um, People would call me he and like a son and all that, and I secretly really liked it. But so I wouldn't correct people, but then like other people would correct them for me, and I was something about that made me feel uncomfortable, but I couldn't describe why. I thought maybe I was just uncomfortable that I was confusing people. I don't know, but yeah, that was most of my childhood, and I knew of the terms trans and non-binary and all that starting from about 11 years old because trans was used as an insult against me, which is how I learned of it. So I refused to accept that it might be accurate because I only ever heard it in a negative. Um, but despite that, I was secretly intrigued by the concepts, and I sought out trans media obsessively for years. But I told myself it was just because I thought it was neat. Um, I would also tell people that it was a good thing I didn't have a Tumblr because I would have been like one of those not like the other girls, non-binary trans people. Haha, good thing I didn't have one, right? Because I thought social media was for girls for some reason, so I didn't have one or a Facebook or anything like that. And it's kind of like looking back and like, come on, it was so obvious. Could you be more obvious, little kid me? But repression and a need for validation are strong, so that's just how it was. So that's how I was until I was around 15, where it became less socially acceptable to be such a big tomboy. And the comments I was getting from my mother were really bothering me. So I decided to grow my hair out. I started wearing skirts, which I wore exclusively from 17 to when I eventually came out. Um, those years were the most depressed and suicidal years of my life, and I do very much believe that repressing my gender played a big part of that. I mean, there was a lot of other stuff going on too, but so it would have happened regardless, but I do think that exasperated the feelings. So, yeah. Anyway, shortly after I turned, I think 24, I started binding with 2 small sports bras. Told myself it was because I was lazy and didn't want to go to the store. I didn't even buy a real bra until my sisters dragged me to a La Zenza and pretty much forced me to get one. Didn't know why that was so uncomfortable at the time, but yeah. Uh, but I then came out as non-binary and started using they them pronouns because I just couldn't handle the intense dysphoria I was still feeling after all of these years. And I had so many years of therapy for like all my other issues, but this this thin still remained, and I just wanted it to go away or get better, and coming out was the only way I could do that, and it is the only way you can really deal with that. Oh, safely. But I was absolutely terrified of how other people would react. And I know when I came out to my boyfriend, he was the first person I told. It was about 2 hours of me crying, just trying to get the words out, but he was chill with it in the end. Still is. We're still together. It's great. Um, he's great. But yeah, he was chill with it. And then I came out to my sisters, and they were all great with it. And eventually I told my like dad and my brothers, and they're okay about it. Like, they're not bad, but they're not as great as my sisters are. Like, they still don't get the whole pronoun thing properly still, but like they know and they're okay with it. Anyways, after that, I sought out a gender therapist because I needed some outside person to validate my feelings about my gender. When I was talking to the therapist, she was all like, "Sounds like you want like hormones and stuff," and I'm like, "No, no, I can't do hormones. I'm too feminine." But I did really, really want top surgery because the dysphoria on that one was way too strong for me to try to talk myself out of it like I did with hormones at first. So I did all the paperwork for all that and put on the wait list, and so I stayed using they, them, and non binary as my identity for about a year and a bit of my transition. And lucky for me, I didn't have to change my name at all because I've been going by my name since before I could even form memories. So the only thing people around me had to change was the pronouns from she to they. But however, during this time, I had all these thoughts in the back of my head that I might not be just non-binary, and I didn't really relate to the non-binary experience as it was. And just the label in general didn't feel entirely correct, and my dysphoria felt different than the way other people were describing it online. But I knew I wasn't a cis girl, but I told myself I wasn't allowed to be anything else because I'm too feminine. I couldn't be a guy because that just didn't make sense because guys don't do the things I do. I'm too girly. So that only left non-binary. So I stuck with it. I eventually went on hormones about exactly a month after my 25th birthday, actually. And after that, I decided I would start using they, he pronouns and called myself a non-binary trans guy. This felt better than using they, them, and being just non-binary by throwing like a little guy part in there and a he at the end. Wasn't good enough though, and I would have these bi-weekly crises of identity of what pronouns to use or what to call myself, but I was too scared to do anything about it because I felt like I had to earn my pronouns, and the only reason I could add the he after the they is because I started hormones, but I couldn't do anything else because I hadn't had top surgery yet, or I didn't pass. I didn't deserve to change anything else. But the little he at the end there made me feel so much better, and the hormones were making me feel so much more comfortable and happy and everything. But it's just like I wasn't a good enough trans person, so I had to settle. I did eventually get top surgery, though, this past August at 26 years old. And then after that, I was like, okay, I can switch it up. I can do he, they instead of they, he. Except I didn't actually tell anybody that because I still felt like I didn't deserve it. My personality and style are too effeminate because, like, men can't wear makeup or collect stuffed toys or be all bubbly and bouncy all the time. They're just, I can't be this, can't be that, just a bunch of excuses because I didn't feel good enough. But I knew, like, deep down, if I really thought about it, that I wanted to use he, him, and just be a binary trans guy. I even had all these backup plans for stuff if I ever decided to accept it and come out. Like, when I got my gender marker changed on my ID and my birth certificate, I went for the M instead of the X option because I knew that was going to be the correct one, but I just told people that M was safer than X because the X would automatically out me as trans to anyone that saw my ID, which could potentially be dangerous. But really, I was just like, if I ever do decide to go full guy, then I only have to change it the one time, don't have to pay it again or go through the paperwork and all the trouble. Or when I got my pronoun tattoo, it said he, they at first. Now it's just he, and the T is now a T shot, and the Y turned into a bat, which is still healing, so don't look at it. And I'm going to add him on the other hand with a trans symbol so it matches. But it was originally he, they, with the he part of they blacked out. So, like, the T and the Y were white, and the H and E were black. So, it was he inside of a they. But yeah, I already had the backup plan for that planned before I even booked it to begin with, which really should have clued me in that, like, hey, you're just a guy, not non-binary. But, oh well, sucks to suck, I guess. So, I guess I've kind of already y'all can already figure out where this is going. This past while, not even a month now, I did accept that yes, I can use he, him exclusively, and no, I don't need to change my whole sense of self to earn that. I'm allowed to be feminine, and I'm still valid in my identity as a man. My coming out has been a several years long process, but it is what it is. I eventually made it. So yeah, hello. My name is Kai. I use he, him pronouns, and I am a binary trans man. And that's where I always knew I needed to be, but it was difficult to get here, and I'm very happy that I'm finally okay enough to not be as worried about being a good enough trans person to earn pronouns or to earn an identity. And I hope that if anybody else feels that way, that you can one day also feel like that you're allowed to fully express yourself regardless if you fit into the boxes of man and woman, something else. No matter what you feel, that you can express yourself how you want to. Hello. How long have you been bouncing back there? Easy, I don't know how long he's been there. He's just a little bunny. I actually have two, but the other one had surgery, so she's inside of a little smaller section of the apartment. Don't want her to rip her stitches. Or, they're not stitches, they're glued. But that doesn't matter. Anyway, bye.